Yeah, okay. Look, hey, thanks everybody for joining us. Especially a big thank you to Dave for joining us as well. We've done a few of these over the years, Dave, and I think this is probably a moment in time which is particularly kind of like special for doing it. And I thought that, you know, every moment matters would be a great kind of theme and topic to talk about, and then how that impacts on kind of employer brand and what we're calling about the new normal. So in terms of an agenda, I'll spend a few minutes talking about, I mean, the new normal is becoming clearer, but there are some things already that we know are here to stay. I want to touch a bit on them and how that was going to impact internal and external talent, particularly, you know, external talent. And then you can talk about the moments and the moments between the moments and how you make them matter. You can talk about, you know, what you see is changing in TA and how that impacts employer brand across the entire talent experience. I can talk, you know, you're going to talk about how to understand, engage, and influence people throughout the journey. I'll talk about, you know, coming back to talk digital and internal and external talent pipelines, and then how you get the robust data to fast track best fit talent into the roles available. Okay, so I mean, there are 5 things that we know for sure, okay, in terms of what the new normal is going to look like. The first thing is that organizations are changing, right? Some are unfortunately becoming smaller. Senior management are saying we need to be smaller because the market's going to be smaller. So there's going to, unfortunately, people are going to be lost. But we see all of them transforming. Okay, they are accelerating. You know, the transformation that, you know, they might have started in different areas. Some are, you know, going more digital. Some are moving from, you know, a service offering that was underpinned by software that they developed into more of a more of a software, starting to sell software. But what that means is that the roles are changing. Okay, and it's a bit like the you know, the chairs, the sun chairs on an ocean liner deck are being shuffled, and sorry, I've got a 6-year-old distracting me.
Move the deck chairs.
You get, yeah. So you get this kind of, the roles are settling, and then you need to match the talent. So you get this kind of accelerated sorting of talent to opportunity, and matching, how you match best fit talent in terms of both competencies and interests is really key. We know the market's going to be a heck of a lot more uncertain. It's going to be much less stable, but that means it's much more dynamic, right? There's more searching, there's more traffic, there's more content points. There'll be masses of applications in some area. STEM will get even harder, but ultimately less moves. Okay, and actually dislodging talent from elsewhere could get even harder as well, because that fear of last in, first out. They may well have been really well looked after, so have more loyalty to their current employers. Okay, so prioritization again is key. Talent from anywhere. I mean, though, a lot of the big tech leaders are already going remote first. You know, the coalition parties in Amsterdam are pushing through legislation to make remote working a legal right rather than a perk. You know, we see a number of customers that we work with have gone from you've got to be HQ to actually you can work from anywhere. So that opens up this idea of talent from anywhere. So we start to see companies, you know, talent pooling, talent pipelining around specific, you know, concentrations of talent or clusters of interest, etc. A younger workforce is changing in the way, you know, that it engages, and all that stuff's going online. A lot of recruitment, early years recruitment fairs are going online already. So you need to be able to execute on that, but you've also got to be able to again get the data to prioritize, you know, around who's really most interested or really most engaged, and also a best fit if they're just firing off applications all over the place. And then you get this kind of soft is the new hard, right? You know, how are people feeling? How are people coping? You know, how did they feel? How did they cope? What did they do during the lockdown? And getting the data on this, you know, both from a new talent and from a, you know, flight risk with internal talent is really, really key. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to set the scene on in terms of what, you know, what we're coming into. And over to you. So you should be able to, do you want to share, you just share your screen, I'll stop sharing, and then over to you to talk about.
Okay, mate. Interesting that, mate. That was good. So much going on. There's just so much going on. Let's just hold on a sec. Let me just move this over here because it doesn't want to share onto that screen. Just hold on a sec, mate. There we go.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting in Europe. I mean, obviously, if we barrel towards a cliff like America did in terms of, there would have been a lot more people into out of work. We should have been much more serious, but we've got a little bit longer here to breathe, I think. And not that that delays any of the decisions, but I think it gives the opportunities for organizations to really, to adapt and to change and to transform, which I think is important.
So can you see my slides now? Can you see that front slide? Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, well, everyone.
Dave, what I can see it though, I can see like 3 things on my screen.
Yeah.
And the notes.
Yeah, hold on a sec. It's playing around. Technology, eh? Technology. You'd work from home.
Well, I see you've clearly got a display. I've just got a laptop, right?
Hold on a sec. Let's sort this out. There we go. I don't know why it's playing like that. I did it to me the other day as well. And normally I can just go share second screen and bang, Bob's your uncle, I'm off. Yeah, someone's just asking there. We'll make the presentations available. No problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
You see, you're not seeing it, are you?
I'm seeing it. Yep, I got that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So just press the present button.
There you go. Happy days. Yeah. That's fine. Great.
Good.
Okay, so let's crack on. So obviously we've done a few of these things, and we just have a good chat, really. But so I've spent the last few weeks actually, and I think you've echoed some of these points really well there, Scott. In speaking to our clients, we've got clients all over the globe, basically. Doing a lot of listening as well, doing some research. Other people like Josh Bershon does some great stuff and some insights from sort of the community that he operates in. And during this time of COVID, what are the things that we need to be thinking about? Probably a number of things. First thing is probably, how candidates and employees, a key question is how you're treating people right now. How are you treating people through this period of time? And, I'm not the first to say this. Everybody who's in this world of talent is saying these things, but it's not just candidates, it's employees, it's customers and the communities that they operate in. And it's more 3-dimensional than just, how a candidate's feeling. And you're being judged on that. And I got some examples of what things are being said and even collated, which is really interesting. Then you've got to think about, well, what is it the candidates and employees want? What is it that they want to know about? What are they thinking about? And it's quite interesting, this shift in how they're moving more towards safety, security, and belonging. And I'm going to talk about some ingredients that we look at or look for when we're developing an employer brand and where it seems to be shifting towards. What's interesting is there's a shift towards that. But how long is that shift going to be for? Because we don't know how long, new normal, how long is it just normal? On an aside on that, school's an interesting one. Schools and school kids going back to school, because everyone's talking about when do they go back to school? But the reality is they might go back to school, but the way they're going to be educated is going to change for a long, 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 long time. So it's not just about now, welcome back. What about after that? So that's quite interesting. And, the future of work is far more than digital transformation and remote work. And it's the entire employee experience is being thought about, engineered, what matters, what's important there. So they're quite interesting things that are going on. Candidates are talking about wellness more. Digitally domestic is a phrase I keep hearing about because we're all sat in front of screens like this. And actually, I've seen stats this morning that we're doing 3 hours work on average more a day because we're constantly sat at a desk. That gives us cognitive overload. Then you've got 6-year-old kids running in saying, hey, Dad, can you sort this out for me? I've got my kids running around trying to do schooling. And so there's a lot going on in how we handle this. Zoom fatigue's a thing that's going on. So that's all quite interesting. And even if you think about how do we set people up to work from home, that alone is an interesting thing. And then the next other thing that we're starting to hear a lot about is business strategies changing. Scott's hinted at some of that in what he was just chatting about there. Then what does that mean for recruitment, TA teams, strategy, structure, and focus? So where are they being focused and how are we deploying it? internal mobility is a big thing that's going on. People are talking, you've talked about talent anywhere. Absolutely. And then what does that mean in terms of attraction? But also internally, talent fluidity is a thing that's being talked about a lot. And I think the discoverability of talent internally is much more becoming an important thing. So, when somebody starts, how they develop over time globally, what projects could they work on and be deployed against? How do we redeploy them? But how do the recruitment team know who they are and where they are and what they're doing? That's an important thing. So there's sort of 4 categories there, and I'm still playing around with this in my mind. And as I'm learning and listening to more people and speaking to clients and thinking about it, but this COVID thing is definitely, there's like 4. There might be a 5th pillar of these are the things that are going on. How do we react to it? And then from an employer brand point of view, and I nearly joined. There's some great Facebook groups around employer brand and recruiting and stuff like that. And there's a big debate going on at the moment about does employer brand really matter at the moment? And it was like, it matters more than ever. It's just the same. It doesn't matter at all. And I clicked, it actually probably matters more than ever. Now, I'm clearly going to say that, right? And I was about to join the conversation because it just went on fire. And I thought, I'm not getting involved in this because it's just going to drive me mental. But hopefully there might be some reasons why it is. I feel like it is more important.
Oh, I can tell you from the conversations that we have that... Yeah. The challenges, so there are some organizations, and I'm not going to name the name of the organization, right, but they have big tech business, and their CEOs recently changed from being a autocratic command and control, follow the rules, to CFO took over, much softer, and has been brilliant at communicating, throughout, and all the people feel loved, right? And that is going to stand them in great stead from a recruitment and a talent acquisition, a talent internal and external and total talent management and talent fluidity point of view. The challenge is, how do they tell those stories? Okay, how do they work with somebody like you to get what that actually means? And it's the moments between the moments, and so I think that is how that question of what did you do? How did you react? What went on? And that'll be a kind of, from a customer, from a corporate brand point of view, but also from a talent, employer brand point of view, absolutely fundamental.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, when you think about the moments and the moment between the moments, like, that is your the experiences that you create through the phases of the talent journey. So candidate experience, onboarding, employees, and offboarding. And think about furlough. Furlough's kind of, so some people, it feels like they have been semi-offboarded. I mean, I'm in a HR chat, and it's been on fire at the moment in this chat group because basically there are so many companies aren't communicating with furloughed people. They're just not communicating with them in the UK. And it's like, my God, they're still your employees. You should be speaking to them and making them feel a sense of belonging and security. And in fact, they're the dials that need turning up right now. So that is really interesting. So I think you're absolutely spot on.
Yeah,
so
I mean, we would call that, how do you inspire them and keep them interested in returning to work when the appropriate time to returning work is? And how do you, I'm going to show some stuff at the end. How do you do that in a way, that is, where you can tell your story and all the rest of it, but at the same time identifying flight risk, understanding people that are struggling, understanding of people that are in the bottom quartile of engagement so that you can treat them differently. How can you do like personalization at scale with your current internal talent,
I totally agree, mate. And the likes of your platform, for example, with the right content, allows the technology to do that at scale. And you know what? Even from my wife's point of view, she's been furloughed. She works for a great law firm, and they communicate really well. And I use the phrase, distance doesn't separate people, silence does. And that's the key thing. Yeah. Simple messaging, and actually should be born out of what is your employer brand and who do you stand for as an organization? Simple communication.
You talk about schools, right? Education. I mean, I would imagine that most of the people that have joined us today have got kids at home, right, in the main, and they'll have seen, everyone will have had an experience of how their school leaders, have right. And so we've got our kids are. There's 5 of them in total, right? They're across 4 different schools, so we can see, right? One school has been absolutely unbelievable, right? The head of the school has just absolutely stepped up, communicated everything. Like, I get something from him 3 times a day, and it's all
Wow.
on Teams. It takes me to like a Microsoft Sway page, and it is a comprehensive, update on their strategy, all the different things. And what that means is I don't have to hassle the teachers.
Yeah.
I know that our kids are in safe hands in this particular school, right? And so and that is about, so in an organization, which has got, employees, if the leaders have managed to kind of communicate authentically and, comprehensively, and just and in a way that's inspiring, then job done. Great. But the silence, as you say, is what kind of alienates people.
Well, it does, and it makes people, people in times of uncertainty want certainty and with through clarity and be honest. The other phrase I was kicking around was speak with sincerity and act with integrity. And just do the right thing. And what's happening is, and I've got some examples of this, is companies' true characters coming out in adversity. How they are behaving is who they are, and that is right the essence really of their. Look at how Weatherspoons reacted at the start. They got slated, absolutely slated. But then there are other examples. But I'm joking, I'm laughing because I posted on Facebook about schools yesterday, right? About how our schools reacted, because I'm fed up. Everybody's talking about when did he go back to school, but that is, and I hear all the arguments. But what about that? Whether they go back to school or not, they should be getting education now. And our schools, the schools my two go to, have been horrendous, right? And then I hear of a school down the road, and they went to online virtual lessons immediately, right? My kids haven't spoken to any teacher in 10 weeks, right? So I put this post on Facebook, and I've had nearly 200 responses from around the world. And I think the silent majority is about it. I'm like, the media need to know about this, because and I know for a fact, right, I've got good friends who are teachers, and some of them are working there, flat out.
It's horrendous. The two most stressed people I know, the two most stressed people I know are both teachers, and they're in schools who have not adapted well. Okay, and they're not only have they've had to double the workload, they've got all the parents hunting them. It's really.
Yeah. Mate, this is for another day, but I really feel the education system, and I think it is at leadership. I think it is at local leadership level, because, there's 2 schools a couple of miles from here. One has been incredible. One is failing. And I'm like, why can't they adapt? At least why can't they have 1 recorded lesson a day? I don't know. But anyway, let's move on, mate. It's not
move on.
Time. So I just wanted to show this because a couple of things that we think about when we talk about the talent experience. I've talked about the journey, and what you can see there is ways of activating and deploying your employer brand through the journey that goes through. Now, in terms of comms and touch points and doing it at scale, this is where somewhere like Candidate ID really helps, because you can move through the journey through this and see what's going on, especially from an internal mobility point of view. So I'm not going to labor on this slide because there's lots of information in there, but basically that's digging into the moments and the moments between the moments and the areas through where you can touch them. But if you go into, if you look at core areas of channels to market, if you like, or channels to talent, what we start to look at is you've got you on the left-hand side, which is the brand, if you like, the organization. And on the right-hand side, you've got them. So that's the audience. That can be external talent, which we talked about, could be talent anywhere at the moment. Or it could be internal talent, mobility. And you have channels to get to them. So, and basically you've got 4 key areas: owned, paid, advocacy, and events. Now, you have owned. Now, from an internal point of view, you might have a CRM, which is helping you manage those relationships. And of course, you've got that in terms of external talent. And, mate, there are some companies that are really double down at the moment in building their talent communities, because it's basically from a paid media point of view, it's never been cheaper in some ways, especially if you go in after like data scientists and, really tech talent that's in high demand. And that's still going to be the case. it's cheaper to build communities of now more than it ever has been. And I've got some examples. Like, then you've got advocacy, I've put internal mobility, and then you've got events, so these are just channels that we would look into when we're planning. And there are shifts, so internal mobility is a huge one. We're looking at building communities and pipelines in advance, and then nurturing them and communicating them through content that's of interest. And we're going to, I'll give some examples of that. So there's some things that be interesting. And then you've got events, and lots of companies are doing, webinars like this through talent to keep them engaged. And obviously they're online, then they can own that content, they can repurpose it, and then nurture content, candidates and employees through that. And actually, they should be using this for example, with their furloughed staff as well, and keeping them connected. Absolutely, keep it connected.
Yeah, I've seen some stuff. Just bring that one back up, Dave. I've seen some. Yeah. I've seen quite a lot of stuff which is really interesting, which is about best practice from a marketing point of view in a crisis, and it talks about owned assets and the importance of owned assets.
Yeah.
And like for example, in consumer goods, like packaging is an owned asset. It's absolutely, you've got to work on that. And the things that you've definitely got control of around your site and your content, and then doubling down on paid because it's never been cheaper in terms of spend to acquire. Yeah, absolutely. But I was wondering, there's got to be some more lateral thinking within talent acquisition and recruitment marketing around, okay, what's the equivalent of packaging?
So
for example.
So we do quite a lot of creative outreach to talent, or the moment they get the offer. So we use that as a magic moment almost, So like, think about there used to be an advert for the way we used to think about this was the Disney advert from years ago, where the kids are on the sofa. It's the TV ad, and they go, guess where we're going next year, or whatever it is, and they unveil where they're going. The kids go, we're going to Disney, they're all made up kind of thing. That's a magic moment, and the kids remember that forever. Now, we've all been there where we really want the job, right? And the moment we get the job, often it's an email, or it's a blanket line. Somebody phones them up. Leverage that moment. That's a key moment, that is. And it could be what gets delivered. So now think about the remote version of that. Imagine they get told the moment, and then the day that it happens, though, something arrives at their door that's special in terms of their setup, and something that's memorable. It's like you unpack it. When you get your
when you get an iPhone, when the early days when you got the iPhone before everybody caught them, that was a magic moment.
Yeah.
And I remember doing this in laundry advertising, right? Again, a brand of one, but it was the second biggest one in the UK. And we worked out the magic moment was not when you pulled it out of the laundry and it all smelled and it was clean. Everything was actually when it was all ironed and folded away. And the magic moment was when you closed the cupboards, the wardrobe.
Yeah.
Done. That was the magic moment, and that was a hero moment that we majored on everything. Anyway.
Yeah, well, we can, and absolutely, So, and then how do you leverage that? So, we had a concept for a hospitality company, and it was for chefs. And when the chef they got chef's knives personalised to them, but then it had a voucher to take them and some of their colleagues to the restaurant that they're going to be working in, and it was a referral scheme. And basically, it was just leveraging the moment. The other thing is, and we're talking to our clients about this at the moment, another moment of magic is going to be the return to the office. What can you do? So the welcome back. Now, you don't force that, and there's lots of things to think about around that. But there's a potential to do something nice there, depending on who you are as a company. And we're talking to some retailers about stuff about that at the moment. We're talking to some tech companies about that. So what do you do that drives a magic moment, that creates advocacy, content through people and actions that ultimately, helps enhance the reputation, and I would say enhance the consumer reputation at the moment, because employer brand is definitely influencing consumers at the moment, and then drive referrals, and you join those dots up through some of these key moments, and there's definitely opportunity. We just need to pause and think about it. It doesn't need to be crazy idea. It could just be a thoughtful moment. It could be something that's not just around the employee. It could be around the employee's family. It could be something for the kids. You know what I mean? It could be something that just extends
it just taps, if you get it right, it just taps into that. And those stories will live on for years, which is what Bill, what did you, oh my gosh, do you remember, in summer 2020, and, we had that return to work, company X did this for me And it,
Oh,
like, wow,
without a
absolutely.
doubt, mate. Without a doubt. And it's the gestures. Yeah, I was chatting on a thing a couple of weeks ago on an I was being interviewed, and I said kindness and generosity is the new currency of influence, and it is. There's definitely a wave of kindness gone through. Well, Jesus Christ, I haven't said that. What's happened the last couple of weeks? But there's definitely been a sentiment that feels like a kindness and a bit more vulnerability, and people letting people in a little bit more. And I definitely think it's got to be, that word authentic. If it's synthetic, and it just kills it.
I mean, that underpins our kind of like approach to,
Yeah.
and it's what you layer on top of our tech, which is that generosity is the currency of engagement,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like, just, hey, read this, Dave, you're going to be better at your job, and all of, so companies often talk about, well, I'm not really sure what we would use, we need more staff to engage with people. It's like, you've got all learning and development materials, you've got a lot of the kind of like, all of your corporate kind of comms in terms of the thinking from the leaders, it's all there. You just need the ability to put it in front of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, if you even look at that slide at the bottom of own L&D, learning development content is probably the best kept secret in all organizations, especially now, because think about making people in these real hard times, helping people with employability and preparing them in times maybe when they have lost their job. You have training that could really help these people, whether it's early careers, whether it's people who've unfortunately lost their job. Think about the rich content that you have, and you could ungate that and support people and enhance your reputation and do the right thing. Be a business that adds value first and success will come second. So I really believe that, man. I think you're absolutely spot on with that. L&D content, employer brand, recruitment marketing. If you're wondering some content, go and speak to L&D, and there's think level content there. So if you think about a marketing funnel and how people bounce around it, think level content is supported in L&D, and actually you could turn that into something that's a bit more in awareness, but make it digestible as well. Make it digestible. And again,
and that's where they need a specialist. They need a pro. Yeah. They need somebody that knows how to take, what would probably be quite dry and big and but turn it into something that is kind of like digestible, quick, engaging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, you see, and that's where if you look at the two sides of this slide, I know we're majoring on this, but you've got you. So imagine you with the L&D content, and then you've got them. We need to understand who them are, how they take information, and the formats and the channels that are best to them, and then adapt it in that way. And then how do you deliver it? So let's say it's in candidate ID, it's in the CRM, and you can then nurture them, and you can measure that engagement, and that's a key point now, because that's then giving you a sense of readiness and engagement, and how, for want of a better phrase, if they're engaged with the brand, then they're getting on the mind shelf and they're feeling engaged, and they're starting to feel an affinity almost to who you are as an organization. So I think that's really important.
But about also, the layer that I would add on top of that, and the slide is great for sort of talking about it, is that people are always on a kind of journey, as you say, and they're on a journey toward either towards something or away for something. But the journey, basically, you can split it into, awareness, education or interest, and then consideration, and then, hire or buy or whatever it is, right? And that kind of translates to top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel.
Yeah.
Now, within L&D, there'll be content that's relevant for top of the funnel. That early kind of awareness and initial interest. There'll be stuff that can be, that can be packaged into longer form, requires a heavier commitment, which sits better in the middle of the funnel and the bottom of the funnel. And so you've got content and channels that map against those stages. And what you've got to be able to, there's no point in sending bottom of the funnel content to somebody who's at the top of the funnel, for example. The only way that you can do that, and we would describe this as, Dave, look, if you're selling onions to an onions buyer, right, show them onions. Talk to them about onions, right? Or preferably really exotic onions like banana-shaped shallots. Don't, whatever you do, show them vegetables, because that's wallpaper. Right. Yeah. And I mean, you'll know this kind of like wallpaper or indifference is the alienation of brand, right? It's the enemy of brand. So you've got to be able to understand whether people are, not interested, not doing anything, cold, whether they're in the middle of the funnel, they're kind of warm, they're sort of, and whether they're hot, right? Whether the bottom of the funnel. And that drives how you pull all of these levers that you've got in front of you and the type of content and formats that you use in each of them.
Oh, mate, you said it perfect. And oh my God, I mean, I'm just thinking of a story that I've had recently, literally 2 days ago, about differentiation. So when we're building employer brands, we do a load of work, and we go and look at the competitors. And I can't tell you how many times you could take the badges off what you're looking at, and they're just all the same. It's just all wallpaper. No one is differentiating themselves. You go and look at, I'm going to call them out, basically. If you go look at Microsoft, go look at Google, go and look at their employer brands and the imagery. Take the things off, it looks the same. Same in the airline space, especially in America. Take the logo. They've all got the captain in the middle with the hat on. Then they've got the two, cabin crew beside them. Then they've got the black person. And it's just like, oh my God, what is going on here? Yeah. What is going on? And you're absolutely. And as an employer brand, in the world of employer brand, we've got to be so much better than that. It drives me mad. Let's move on, mate. Let's move on. Whiz on. It's a good conversation. I'm enjoying this one, mate. This is good. It's got my brain going. So just some of the things that we are seeing. You've got a consumer brand and an employer brand. And we're definitely seeing currently how employer brand is influencing the consumer brand and the consumer reputation. There's definitely some blurred lines. And just a few examples of this. People are publishing. So this is which high street shop should get your money. Okay. This is a website. It's like a TripAdvisor COVID. How are they treating people? What are they doing? And should you shop there based on how they're treating their people? Right. And it's got, like, you can see ASOS, you got Aldi, Apple, Arcadia. It's really easy not to shop in some of these places. It's not like changing banks. So based on how that, like, there's loads of chatter online at the moment. Loads of people are going, I'm never drinking in Wetherspoons again. Now, that might not last forever, but it's going to last for some time. And the people that are saying that, they might go, I'm not going to go to Wetherspoons. I'm going to go to that other pub. We're definitely seeing this chatter. There's another website that's created a leaderboard on heroes and zeros, and that's brands and individuals. And obviously you can see Trump there, no surprise there. But it's just fascinating to see how people are. And then it's about, are they doing the right thing with their people? And I'm sure you've seen this. Airbnb have been fantastic in how they're treating the people. I mean, if you haven't read the CEO's message about how they're having to let people go, it's really emotional. And he talks about the toil that he had to go through. And they deployed some of their recruitment team to help outplacement. And they've set a site up with their people who they, like, it's like they're letting go of their family. And Uber have done the same thing. It's been fascinating. And then you've got consumer marketing through people. The Barclays ad starts with a message from our colleagues to our customers. And we've all seen the Zoom footage. So it's really interesting to see. And like never before, it's starting to happen. So that's.
I think what I mean, it's kind of interesting. As a really good friend of mine, as a creative director, he was at BBH, and he's now kind of hops between Sydney and London and Glasgow. Yeah. And he always, and I think this is very relevant for talent acquisition as well, because what amazing creative does is the spark. It's the spark that ignites everything, right? And it can be, now, people have a moment in time where they can really differentiate between what's great brand and what's great advertising work and what's not, because you stuff's being presented to you and it either sings or crashes. Yeah. And it's because they've either just judged that, they've judged that the moment, because it's a hypersensitive, there's, a lot of stuff going on. Some of them get it really right. Some of them get it really wrong. And that's about a brilliant spark.
Yeah. That, creative idea. Definitely, man.
Yeah. And the creative idea, in employer brand, will sing through as well.
Well, that's right, because we're not fighting for candidates so much. We're fighting for time and attention. That's what we're fighting for. And basically the strategy, the comms platform, the brand platform you create, then influences the creative idea and how you bring that alive. That's true brand comms. Too many people in our world just try and think of an idea. That's not how you do this. It's led through insights and strategy. That's how you would do it in a consumer brand. That's probably why consumer brand marketing has 50 times higher budgets than employer brand, because they have to work so hard at it. And there are, to be quite frank, there's too many agencies in employer brand that basically go, let's look at a bit of research and let's get locked in a room and think of an idea. It's not smart enough. It's just not going to work. So, and we could do a whole other webinar on that. But so, you're right. It's the creative idea. What we're seeing as well is, and you're right, your whole onions thing spot on. It's how we're using the employer brand idea and messaging to attract, how to attract them or repel them, because you've got to think about, you want to help people actually opt out but still remain friends. We need, because especially now the volume's going to go up, isn't it?
I mean, absolutely. If you're selling onions, you don't want a carrots buyer.
No.
You don't want a fruit buyer. You don't want a meat buyer. You don't want a milk buyer. You want onion buyers, right? Okay. So great, brand, great creative repels and attracts, as you say. And I quite often, I mean, so much just talks about, kind of job description and things like that, right? But the Shackleton's one's got to be the best, in terms of like, hey, you're either up for this or you're not,
Yeah. No, it's spot on, and I think you're right. We've got to be smart in how we do it, and that comes around the harsh realities, and not be afraid of them, because we have this. We've got a book that's come out called Give and Get, and it's about, well, what does someone have to give? What do they get in return? We shouldn't be afraid of talking about. Look, let's just say our agency, for example. If you're not resilient and can move fast and juggle a lot of stuff in our agency, you're going to struggle. So really, you're probably not right for us, but that's okay. You know what I mean? We can still remain friends. But what we need to do is try and use our messaging with Give and Get to help that. The other thing is vulnerability. Don't be afraid to show your vulnerability. It's called the fratfall effect in marketing. And this is a famous story where Avis, they recognised they weren't the best, but they said we're number 2. But guess what? We've got to work harder. And actually,
that got them to number 1.
They
still ran it. They still ran it for years after they were number 1 as well. But this is kind of something that is worth probably touching on, because I've always been slightly confused. I mean, I've always thought that, let's start from, you can always tell a great positioning like this, and a great positioning that maps to a strap line, like Avis is the number 2, so we try harder. You can always tell a great one, because when you run it up the flagpole, everybody salutes. It maps, across, the consumers and the companies that you're trying to attract, and it maps across the people and the talent that you're trying to attract. It just works. And so why would you, from an employer brand point of view and a creative point of view, obviously you need different applications and different, but why would you need a different flag to run up the flagpole, if you follow me?
Yeah, I mean, it's you know what? I can't tell you how hot. I mean, that idea there, right? It's just words, right? That's genius. That is genius. Like you say, it's such a nice analogy. When the flagpole goes up, everyone looks at it and goes, "Do you know what? That is bloody clever. It's smart." And then obviously you have campaigns around it. You bring it alive through different methods. But the tagline, which everyone would call it or whatever, your employer brand proposition, it's hard to get it right, and then it's differentiating. So GVC, I haven't got examples of this. GVC is the world's leading betting and gaming company. They've gone from 60 staff to 28,000 employees in 5 years. No one's ever heard of GVC. They own 28 brands. Their employer brand proposition is for the good of entertainment. And we came about that because there's a morality around gaming, but everything they did, they believed was good when we listened to them. And every sporting event they're involved with, it's so entertaining. They live and breathe it as employees. They get stuck in, they get involved. They've got this bring it on attitude. And so we had for the good of entertainment, and then we had keep it real, bring it on, get involved. And there was another pillar. When we launched that internally, we did a live broadcast to 28,000 staff, employees around the world. We launched it with 1,000 people right next to the Olympic Stadium. Their HRD said, "You've moved our culture with that event 2 years forward." I'll never forget, I was on the train coming back to Liverpool that evening after the event. I'd had a few beers. I'm walking down the train and I bumped into about 20 of their staff, and they were like, "Oh my God, it was amazing. We've never had anything like this." It ignited them. It's become their corporate purpose. And you're right, because it went up the flag and it resonated.
Yep.
And everyone was like, this is who we are. And they bought into it. And that's where employer brand goes wrong again, is they don't land it, they don't live it internally. And, you know, it's so spot on, mate. When the flag goes up, that's the test.
Everybody salutes.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, let's move on. God, I enjoyed that bit, mate. That was good. So I'm conscious of time, so there's just a few other things to pick on. Some
Yeah. No, I always think you've got to, it's always better to see stuff. You want to.
Oh, man, yeah. So the other thing is, we've talked about this, is adversity. You know, now we're in adversity. What people are seeing, I've got a couple of examples of this, is in adversity, true character comes up. And what companies are seeing is how their people are reacting organically without even being asked. And there is incredible content that's being created. And often the companies might not even be listening. So listen, look for the signals, not just surveys, but the signals that are happening with your people. I've got a few examples of that. That's an example of give and get. It's probably in the wrong place, but that just shows you, like, that's just an example of, ask your people right now, speak to them. What do you really have to give to thrive in this organization? But what do you get? And be harsh, be brutal, be honest. That will be the start point for the ingredients of the messaging of who you are. Give and get. What does someone have to give to thrive, and what do they get in return? And just do that as an acid test and see.
Have you got, like, without going down another avenue, have you read Turn the Ship Around?
No.
All right, so this is, because this taps right into this give and get. Okay, so Turn the Ship Around was written by a US nuclear submarine commander, and he took the USS, like, the US has got 35 nuclear submarines. That's not classified information, by the way. And he took the lowest performing one. He'd been on a few tours and he'd seen it done well before, like on his first one, and then I've seen a few other car crashes. And he bitched so much they gave him his own submarine, the US Santa Fe, and it'd been the bottom performing submarine for the last 8 years, and he took it to the top performing, and it stayed for the top performing for the 8 years after he left and moved on. Right. And how he did it was turn the ship around. And so if you imagine a US nuclear submarine, it is absolutely set up for command and control.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm the guy at the top, I decide, and everybody else follow. They all have to follow, because the risk of something going wrong is fairly significant. Okay. Yeah. And but actually what he realized was that, you know, actually the data's at the bottom. The data is with the 365 submariners who are doing their individual tasks all the day. They've got the data, they've got the knowledge, they have the power. You just have to give them the responsibility. So how do you go from a command and control, which works great when you just had humans as robots in the fields and in the factories, to which is now the digital economy where the data is at the bottom. Okay. And that's, so you move to a freedom with responsibility, which is a give and a get, right? And he gives you a roadmap of how you do it. It's fascinating. Brilliant.
Oh, I'm going to check that out. I've not heard of that. You've read some books, you know, Scott. I mean, I read books and listen to podcasts and everything, but you're a bit of an encyclopedia, aren't you? You should post out your top 5 books for COVID. Definitely.
Oh, that's an Adam thing.
I'm just going to jump down a few, because I know there's a couple of things to pick up on and what you're thinking about as well. But I just wanted to show, like, an example of some of the stuff that we've seen through stories coming out organically. So this is the PH crew, right? So we use Facebook Workplace. And Paul on the left, without even asking, he just started this Meet the PH family. And he started interviewing 2 people for 20 minutes each week about them, their life. And it's become... everyone loves it, and it's now used as our onboarding. So when somebody joins, they get interviewed by Paul, and he's got a host, he's got a jingle. It's just gone nuts. We did a PH has Got Talent, and we had the whole team submit talent. And I was in a dicky boat to present it. We did a live show for an hour and a half. It was incredible. But what it gave us was so much insight, and like the talent, like Tracy there and her husband, they rewrote the Boomtown Raps I Hate Mondays. Wow. And it was just like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. We've got someone doing tarot card readings, and now we've got PH Happiness Spotify list that we do every month.
This is a brilliant example of Web 2.0, you know, where you've got actual, you know, just people generating their own content, but generating their own content in which you could then use an employer brand.
Absolutely. Now, this is the thing. This is my whole point. In adversity, character comes out, and it's happening. This is RBS. So these are our clients. The one on the right, we've done a short motion video, but it's about a lady called Margaret, and she works in like the Premier accounts. And what she did is, off her own back, she started phoning vulnerable customers just to check in and see how they are. And then the whole team started doing it without being asked. You know, they just started spending a bit of time just checking to see how they are and have a conversation with them. We're like, this is amazing. This guy was the one in the middle. He started doing caricatures, you know, like funny cartoons that you see in newspapers. He started doing this. And then this was like, this is what their team are doing around the world, and DJs and stuff like this. So this content is there. And the moment to listen and use it is now. You know, and it's and it is your employer brand. It is your behaviors. It is the routines. It is the experiences that you are creating in these moments right now. You know, and I would massively encourage you to listen really well. Use them and try and think about the patterns and threads that you're seeing, and then think about how you use that and communicate it over time with the likes of, you know, CRMs, candidate ID. That goes into your nurture cycle. You know, and showing people who you are. I think that's a good pause point there, to be honest with you, Scott. And, you know, hand back over to you, I think.
Yeah, I'm just putting something in the chat. Look, there's a Q&A. Anybody who wants to ask any questions, either just add them to the chat and Dave and I will go through them, or we'll put them in the Q&A. Yeah, I mean, what I would